Hey, it's the Empire. Don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon for more videos. We taking over. Let's go, champ. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button right now. Let's go. Hey, it's the Empire, Geoboxing Empire, Backstone Boxing. Now, man, my boy Terance Crawford, man, first person to be undisputed at 140 in forever, man. Got all four titles, man. Beat Julius Indongo and name all the champions at 140, but man, that would take way too long. Currently is at 147. Beat Jeff Horn for a WBO title and has been knocking out every single opponent at 147 since then. So we all know his power has moved up. Now, that all being said, man, Eddie Renenzo, Canelo Alvarez's trainer, he actually think that at the 147 division between Terance Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., that Terance Crawford is the better fighter. And this is what he says, and I quote, "For me, Terance Crawford is the better fighter than Spence. He has more abilities and is more talented." Eddie Renenzo. Man, you know what my boy Terance Bud Crawford says after that? He says, you know what? I think Canelo is scared of black fighters. That's what my boy Terance Crawford says after this praise from Eddie Renenzo, Canelo Alvarez's own trainer himself. You know what they always say, man. When lies have been fed to you your whole life, the truth feels like an attack. Crazy stuff, man. My boy Terance Crawford, man, he says some truths in Canelo Alvarez, man. Now, if you didn't know, when Canelo Alvarez was quote-unquote in his prime, his biggest wins, in my opinion, in his career, at least his longest run, was at 154, right? He beat Arizona Lara, he beat Shane Mosley, right? And the list goes on and on, right? That being said, those were his biggest wins because he beat undefeated Austin Trout, right? And he was beating a lot of top fighters at the time, Hall of Fame fighters. Fighters are going to go to the Hall of Fame. And that being said, he was looking really invincible until, he ran into Floyd Money Mayweather and that reign was stopped. But, the thing is, in boxing, Canelo Alvarez, when he went to 160, some big questions came up about Canelo Alvarez. What were the questions? Well, he tested positive for clenbuterol. He tested positive for the clenbuterol. And if you watch any sport, man, once you get test positive for any kind of substance, all your previous accolades are gone after that, right? So you can scratch all those fights from 154 basically up to Triple G and say, did he really win it the right way? We just don't know. Usually, if you test positive for anything, all your past accomplishments are scratched off, man. So that being said, who has Canelo Alvarez beat after Triple G? You can give him Daniel Jacobs, but that's about it. And he's went up to 168. He's beaten Kovalev, but all those are Eastern European fighters or European fighters in itself. He hasn't really fought any top-notch African American fighters as of late. And understand, I skipped a lot of details down there at 154 where he did not fight Demetrius Andrade or Jamal Charlo, right? Those were champions at the time, and there are two of the four champions or two or three champions at the time where Canelo Alvarez was a champion. He didn't fight, two of the three most dominant fighters who were so dominant in their weight class. Not only were they dominant at 154, they both went up in weight and got another title. So these are multi-division undefeated world champions who've been dominating, and Canelo has not fought these fighters. These are the fights that the true fighting fans want to see. And Demetrius Andrade, he fights every now and then, but he's always fighting elite level competition. And Jamal Charlo, he's fighting the who's who in boxing, and he's fighting people who, like Darianchenko, the guy who really beat Triple G, but they didn't give him the nod. Darianchenko was walking Triple G down, and he was beating him. He fought him in inside. He knew how to fight low. He got underneath Triple G and was working him. And sometime in that fight, Triple G looked like he was almost about to get stopped. When Jamal Charlo fought him, that fight was not competitive at all. That fight was only competitive when Jamal Charlo stopped throwing a jab and he basically just let him in. And by the time Darianchenko started picking up the pace around round 8, Darianchenko, those punches were arm punches at that point, and they weren't really doing any damage to Jamal Charlo. So that being said, man, boxing's all about what have you done for me lately. And I said it once and I say it again, Canelo Alvarez is on a Euro tour. He's fighting all these Eastern European fighters, and European fighters And if you're polymonology, you might think that's cool because you might think that Eastern European fighters are so dominant. But the majority of boxing fans, the Mexican Americans, the African Americans, the people who tend to dominate the sport historically, they're not too impressed, man. They're just not too impressed. And Canelo Alvarez, like I said, it's about what have you done for me lately, and we want to see Canelo Alvarez fight people like Jamal Charlo. We already seen Daniel Jacobs fight him, and obviously that was a dream. Daniel Jacobs, he came in overweight. He paid like a couple $1 million for being overweight in that fight. Daniel Jacobs, while that was a good win, we want to see Canelo Alvarez fight someone his age that's young and who has the same accolades as him. And the closest fighter that is, the second fighter you can name, is Jamal Charlo. People love to say what have Jamal Charlo done for me more done lately, but understand that outside of Canelo Alvarez, who's the closest to him? And that's the second fighter is Jamal Charlo. You can't really say anyone else, because while Demetrius Andrade is good, I mean, he's fought in top opposition, but he should have fought. If he would have fought Derevyanchenko, you could say his resume was better, but not really, because when Jamal Charlo beat Julian Jarrett Williams, he beat an undefeated Julian Jarrett Williams. And Julian Jarrett Williams, after that knockout, went to become the unified champion by beating my boy Jarrett Hurd. So these are fighters that Jamal beat. No one knew who they were, and later in their career, they went to not just be champions, but unified champions. So, I can break Jamal Charlo's resume all the way down, but it will take too long. Fact of the matter is, Canelo Alvarez, yes, man, at this point of his career, the fighters that give him the most problems are movers, the people who use the fundamentals of boxing, the jab, the movement, the counter ability, the power, and Jamal Charlo has that all in spades, and he's the big bro of Jamal and Jamel Charlo. He has the most natural talent, in my opinion, because he has the better power. And in my opinion, I think he'll come in with the Canelo fight better than he's ever been, because this will be the biggest fight of his career, bar none. So that being said, yeah, man, Canelo Alvarez, man, him going up in weight and cherry picking fighters that just no one really cares about, man. I mean, Caleb Plant, decent fighter. All those 168 fighters, decent fighters. But David Benavidez just lost the title not too long ago. He just got stripped of his title because he missed weight. I mean, these fighters aren't disciplined at all. Billy Dos Santos, former 160 champion, went up there and got a title, right? He's a WBO champion right now. A lot of those 168 fighters, you could say they're really great, but honestly, most of the 160 division already went up there and took a lot of titles up there. And Canelo Alvarez is 1 or 2 titles away from unifying, being undisputed in that division. Now we're gonna see what happens, but it's looking like it's an easy road to become undisputed. And there's champions there who are locked out the division who should be champions, like a David Benavidez. So yeah, man, we're gonna see how this thing goes, man. But people still want to see him, because like those fights are big fights, the Caleb Plant fight and the Billy Dos Santos fight, but those aren't gonna do big numbers, man. People still want to see Canelo Alvarez versus Jamal Charlo, because if Jamal Charlo goes up to 168, that'll be 3 divisions this guy has been reigning in, defending titles and fighting top guys. That's insane. Right now, he's already a 2-division world champion in 2 different weight classes. So, it's just crazy stuff, man. We want to see Canelo Alvarez fight these top African-American fighters. He's so-called the face of boxing. There is no protecting the guy. He needs to fight whoever the fans say he needs to fight, whether you like it or not. You can't say you're the face of boxing if there's fighters we want to see you fight. We've been calling for it for over a decade, for like half a decade at least, 4 or 5 years from now. It's insane. Let me know what you guys feel about it, though. Like, comment, subscribe. This is the Empire. Geoboxing Empire. Peace. Geoboxing Empire. Peace.